Chapter 1247. But apart from accumulating experience, opportunities were also very important for a male to level up. Fighting with all their might, some could easily level up, while others couldn't even advance to the next level. And Bode just happened to belong to the second category. Even before he met Gu Mengmeng, he had been longing to level up so that he could protect Sandy from Nina. But now, even after fighting with all his might, he had only advanced from the first level to the second level. Gu Mengmeng sighed. I know someone who might be able to raise your fighting abilities, but the method must be cruel and the process must be painful. I'll go. Bode blurted out almost without hesitation. His gaze landed on Sandy's worried face. Bode smiled as he knelt down on one knee and caressed Sandy's little face. You'll be fine with Colin and the rest taking care of you. No matter how hard it is, I will ascend to become your pride as soon as possible. I will not let others say that your first partner is a useless piece of trash. Be good, all right. Sandy knew that every time someone used Bode's level to make fun of her, Bode would feel sad in his heart. She knew that Bode was already working very hard, and she didn't think that being a second-level beast was something to be ashamed of. But Bode was a male. He had his pride that he had to protect. Sandy's throat couldn't speak. She could only hold Bode's hand and look deeply into his eyes. Bode had been partners with Sandy for many years. He could understand her intentions just by looking at her. He kissed her face. Don't worry. I will not let Joseph and his brothers lose their father. I will be back as soon as possible. Sandy finally nodded. But her gaze was still reluctant to part. Bode looked up at Gu Mengmeng. Great messenger, please tell me. Where should I go to find this person you mentioned? Gu Mengmeng replied. Zacharias, Peter. A place and a person's name didn't need any more words. Bode hugged Sandy tightly. He planted a heavy kiss on her forehead before leaving without looking back. Gu Mengmeng hugged Sandy. Don't worry. Qi Xian and Kan Wo are there. Nothing will happen. Sandy smiled at Gu Mengmeng. She knew that Gu Mengmeng's arrangement was for her own good. It was also the best situation for Bode. Colin wasn't a threat to Bode, but that didn't mean Hodgson and the others weren't. Wolf beasts were savage by nature. If you couldn't crush them in terms of strength, it would be very difficult for them to truly submit to you. Especially since Hodgson and the rest had partnered with her for the sake of the tribe, it was hard to guarantee that they would not have thoughts of eradicating and replacing Bode. Therefore, Bode had to become stronger. After scolding Colin and making arrangements for Bode, Gu Mengmeng's gaze finally landed on Hodgson and Jerry. The two of them were still in a state of shock from Colin and Bode's scolding. When they met Gu Mengmeng's eyes out of the blue, they were startled and instinctively avoided her gaze. In a confrontation between wild beasts, the first to retreat would be the loser. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, Originally, I was here to congratulate you and Sandy for mating. But seeing you guys torturing my Sandy into such a miserable state, I really don't feel good about it. Chapter 1248. I am a very fair person. As Gu Mengmeng spoke, she placed Sandy's head down from her knees and even thoughtfully wrapped a piece of beast skin into a pillow to cushion Sandy's head. Then, she patted her lightly before standing up. You guys have made my precious Sandy suffer, so I will make you guys suffer twice as much in order to appease your anger. Sandy shook her head. Hodgson and Jerry looked at each other, not understanding what Gu Mengmeng meant. Gu Mengmeng smiled and clapped her hands. She got into a fighting stance and said, I heard that both of you are at the peak of third level and can level up after a fight. I, the great messenger, will personally be your sparring partner. You must be grateful. With that, Gu Mengmeng charged over and punched Hodgson in the stomach. At the same time, she kicked Jerry in the chest. Gu Mengmeng did not unleash her beast pressure in consideration of Sandy's ability to withstand it. Moreover, she could not unleash her full power as a beast king. Moreover, it was just a small punishment, and she was not really trying to buy someone's life, so Gu Mengmeng was merciful. How would the two wolf beasts dare to attack their own queen? Didn't they see the wolf king sitting there staring at them with a kind and amiable smile? If they dared to misbehave, the wolf king would pick them up and crush them into a pulp. Elvis's warning when they first arrived at Sauter was still ringing in their ears. The wolf king would never show them any mercy when it came to the queen. Hence, the two warriors who had been in the limelight at the night campfire party and were still proud of themselves yesterday were beaten black and blue by Gu Mengmeng today. Gu Mengmeng only squatted beside them when they could no longer stand up. I took you back to protect and take care of Sandy. If you dare to use her as a tool to satisfy your lust, then you must be mentally prepared to bear the consequences. After all, the person standing behind Sandy is me, Gu Mengmeng. With that, Gu Mengmeng stood up. Because she had lowered her head, the sunlight cast a shadow over her. At 1.7 meters, she could only be considered a petite Lolita in the beast world. But at that moment, they were black Lolitas. This time, it's just a small punishment to warn you against future troubles. If I find out that you made Sandy suffer again, it won't end so easily. After Gu Mengmeng finished speaking, Hodgson and Jerry squeezed out some air from their lungs and answered shakily, "Yes, we understand." Queen. Gu Mengmeng looked up with a face full of smiles. Facing the sunlight, she looked especially warm, as if she was not the one who had beaten up the two males without relying on her beast pressure. But even though she was smiling brightly, none of the 5 wolf beasts dared to belittle her. All of them were trembling with fear and did not dare to treat her as a little female protected by the wolf king anymore. Gu Mengmeng stood in front of the 5 males who had yet to mate with Sandy and paced back and forth. She then smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, although I am not a good person, I will not bully the weak. As long as you take good care of Sandy and treat her gently, I won't hit you for no reason. Don't worry, Queen, we will treat Sandy very well." The wolf beasts nodded repeatedly, not daring to be the slightest bit slow. Gu Mengmeng then sat down beside Sandy in satisfaction. She lifted Sandy's head and placed it on her lap, then asked, "Where's the water?" They were unwilling to do anything that could break the alliance, and so the situation quickly turned in Heda and Jiaoyu's favor. After listening to Li's analysis, Gu Mengmeng started to relax. She believed that she had always felt that Jiaoyu and Heda could not handle it because of maternal love, and had treated them like children. After a few peaceful days, Elvis and Leah walked out of the stone castle alone one night. "Leah, you have to level up as soon as possible," Elvis said in a low voice. Chapter 1250. Elvis looked at Leah with a serious expression, forcing Leah to retract his playful smile. Frowning, he locked his long and narrow eyes on Elvis's face. "Is there anything you're planning that I don't know about?" Elvis sighed. "I know that becoming the Beast King will attract a pack of wolves and become an unmanageable problem, but I still want to be the Beast King." "You really don't know what my motive is?" Leo was stunned for a moment, then he turned around. I don't know anything. And I won't level up, I'll just remain at the 4th level, enough to crush all the other males chasing after Mengmeng." Elvis grabbed onto Li's shoulder, stopping him from leaving. "It's because I can see that you've been slacking off after I became the Beast King, that's why I came to talk to you today. Preparing for a rainy day is your way of doing things. We can't afford another sudden blow." Leah bit his lips, glanced sideways at Elvis. "All right, I'll work hard to level up to the 5th level, then find the spirit of the Rocky Cliffs to activate the Beast King bloodline. But you have to promise me one thing, if Mengmeng really gets the 2nd tier of the Beast Deity one day, that tier of the Beast Deity will definitely be mine." Elvis pursed his lips, not saying a word, his jaw tightened into a straight line. Leah chuckled. "I won't level up if you don't promise me." You want to use yourself as an insurance, learn from Snake and sacrifice yourself to use the tear of the beast deity to prolong Ming Ming's life when Meng Meng is in danger, but you want me to stay behind to bear the consequences when you're the hero. Ha, dream on. Let me tell you, I won't agree. Leah. Elvis frowned. Leah rarely said such irrational words. He was angry. Elvis could clearly feel the anger and uneasiness behind his smile. Leah slapped Elvis's hand away and said, "It's not like you don't know how upset Meng Meng was when Snake died. Let me tell you, I don't have the courage to face Meng Meng again. I don't want to see Meng Meng in such pain ever again. So, if you want to give Meng Meng an insurance policy so that she can live longer in case of an emergency, then I will be the insurance." With that, Leah poked Elvis's chest with his slender fingers and said word by word, "You're her first partner. You should be the one to shoulder the more difficult things. Let me, the beast pet, do the small matter of dying." Elvis nodded. "But the person Xiao Meng likes the most is you, and the person who knows how to make her happy is also you. If one of us has to die in exchange for her safety one day, then the one she likes more should be the one to stay alive, isn't that right?" Elvis smiled bitterly and said, "Moreover, didn't you always say that you regretted giving Xiao Meng to me back then, causing you to lose her one and only? If I die in the future, you can have Xiao Meng all to yourself again." Chapter 1251. Elvis clenched his fists and lowered his hands. He did not dare to ask. He was afraid that Xiao Meng would be put in a difficult position. He was afraid that Xiao Meng would admit or deny. He was even more afraid that Xiao Meng was so smart and could see through his intentions. She would know that he was trying his best to advance to Beast King so that he could use his own life to prolong hers when she was in danger again. He did not want to be helpless when she was on the brink of death again. But this was a selfish decision. Death was such an easy thing. The one who was forced to live was the one who would be tortured. Wasn't Snake's death already demonstrated once? Leo was right. He used himself as the golden elixir to save Gu Meng Meng and became a hero. But Leah, who stayed behind to comfort Gu Meng Meng, had to endure her unbearable pain. He was not afraid of death, but he was afraid of Gu Meng Meng's frown. Leah suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned around and smiled at Elvis. "You also know that I am a fox." Elvis was stunned for a moment. He did not quite understand what Leah meant. Leah placed an arm on Elvis's shoulder. He smiled slyly. "It is in my nature to be sly. What should I do? I don't like things to develop in a direction that is not beneficial to me." Elvis held his forehead. "Speak properly." Leah swayed his tail. He stood up straight. "There are two ways. 1. Do as I say. I will work hard to advance to the peak of 5th level. Then, we will look for the spirit of the rocky cliffs for me to activate the Beast King bloodline. If anything happens, let me be the second tier of the beast deity. 2. I will go in and wake Meng Meng up now. I will tell her your plan and let her teach you a lesson." Elvis hesitated but pretended to be calm. "You said that it will only make Xiao Meng sad. You won't do anything that will make her sad, right?" Leah shrugged. "I am not the one doing the things that will make her sad. If I don't report what I know, I will be treated as an accomplice. So, you decide. Do you want us to work together and hide this matter? Or do you want me to be a traitor and betray her?" Leah. Elvis felt rather helpless. Other than fighting, it was too difficult for him to win Leah. Leah flipped himself over and stood side by side with Elvis. His shoulders leaned against the wall and the moonlight elongated their shadows. He said calmly, "If I also level up to become a Beast King, then there will be 3 Beast Kings in the entire beast world, all gathered in our house. Under such circumstances, if someone wants to hurt Xiao Meng, what do you think the probability of success is?" Elvis understood that Leah was right. One Beast King was already invincible. If 3 beast kings worked together, no one in the beast world could hurt Gu Mengmeng in front of them. Even now, he had enough power to protect Gu Mengmeng and prevent anyone from hurting her. But the memory of the last time Gu Mengmeng was on her last breath and he could only kneel on the ground and cry blood was too clear. He was really afraid, so he suggested a foolproof solution. He did not want Leah to become the Beast King, not because he was afraid that Leah would shake his position after he became the Beast King, but because he knew that the success rate of activating the Beast King bloodline was only 30%. His success was largely due to luck. Chapter 1252. If you don't choose, I will go in and call Mengmeng, Leah said and was about to enter the house. I promise you. Elvis instinctively pulled Leah back, but the moment he said that, he gave a bitter laugh helplessly. I, the first partner, am still being led by the nose by you. Leah chuckled. That's because you know what I said is right, and my strategy has always been the most comprehensive. Don't worry, Mengmeng is a female that I have spent a lot of effort to get back. Unless I have no other choice, I can't bear to abandon her to die. Elvis nodded. The best scenario is that the two of us can protect her forever and not let her get hurt. Leah nodded and said, all right, there's nothing else, right? If you are willing to stay here and admire the night view, you can continue. I am going in to hug my Mengmeng to sleep. Elvis chuckled and didn't reply. He just followed Leah back into the stone castle. Perhaps their worries were groundless, or maybe it was because Gu Mengmeng's near-death experience had such a huge impact on them that after experiencing the fear of losing her, they could no longer bear to see her get hurt or bleed. So if she had a nosebleed, they would almost go crazy. If she had a thorn in her hand, their hearts would ache for a long time. So before they found the love of the sky, they would never let her have children. Gu Mengmeng didn't know about the conversation between Elvis and Leah. The latter part of the dry season was busier. Sauter's tribe was now more than 10 times its original size, and the population was increasing exponentially. That well was still not enough to supply everyone with water. Eventually, they could only collect water by family, with those with cubs taking priority. Sandy's family became the first family to collect water every day, because not only did they have cubs, they also had 2 female cubs under their name. Gu Mengmeng expressed that she had no objections, so naturally no one dared to say anything. As a result, Sandy's status in Sauter had unknowingly changed. Sandy herself did not realize it, but other than herself and Gu Mengmeng, everyone else's attitude towards Sandy had become more cautious and respectful. Just as Heda and Jialu were busy with the matter of the water source, an unexpected visitor came to Sauter. This visitor who descended from the sky caused quite a commotion in Sauter because the aura he exuded was too sharp and did not fit in with the people around him. A sharp glint flashed past his eyes, making people want to retreat. This sharpness had nothing to do with his level. He clearly didn't release any beast pressure, but it was enough to make people tremble. Oh. Elvis looked lazily at the wild wolf who came to report and frowned. He turned to Leah and said, there are 2 beast kings here and there is still someone who dares to barge in alone. Leah stood up and patted the dust off his body. I'm afraid they don't have good intentions. You accompany Mengmeng, I'm going to meet the guest. As Leah had interacted with Elvis for a long time, he could understand the wolf's language. Hence, he did not need Elvis to translate for him to know what the wild wolf had said to him. Gu Mengmeng, on the other hand, was like an outsider as she stared at her 2 males speaking in riddles. She turned around and asked, what's wrong? What kind of person was that? Stray beasts. Chapter 1254. The moment she entered the stone house, Gu Mengmeng felt that the atmosphere was not quite right. Leah and another person she did not know were standing face to face. That person was expressionless and had a cold demeanor. Even though they were wearing the same beast-skin dress, he exuded an aura of abstinence, making one want to kneel down and shout, Master, I am Xiao Gu. The feathers on both sides of his ears proved his identity. Yeah, he was a bird. Those feathers were different from those of the eagle owl tribe. They were dark gray with dark patterns. Gu Mengmeng could not recognize what bird feathers it was, so she could not determine which tribe he belonged to. But Li's smile was so warm that Gu Mingming's hair stood on end. For Leah to smile like that, it was obvious that the birdman standing opposite him had made him very angry. Gu Mengmeng was placed on a stone chair by Elvis. Elvis stood quietly behind her to guard her, not saying a word. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had returned, Leah also stood back and waved his tail. Mengmeng, let me introduce. This is the current leader of the renowned vulture tribe, Gregory. Gu Mingming's eyes widened. Vulture tribe. She had fallen into an endless cycle of not being able to see the vulture tribe if she did not ascend the mountain. She had been stuck in a dilemma for a long time, and now he had delivered himself to her doorstep. Damn it! You are the legendary messenger of the beast deity. Gregory sized up Gu Mengmeng with an unfriendly expression. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback by Gregory's attitude. Her father had clearly said that the vulture tribe was the tribe closest to him, so she could show off her father's reputation. But this person in front of her did not seem to buy it. I am. Gu Mengmeng gave a simple reply. She decided to stay the same and see what the other party's intentions were. Gregory looked at Elvis and then at Leah. Finally, his gaze landed on Gu Mengmeng. There was not much expression on his face, but it was different from Oraton's poker face. He was really cold, so cold that even his gaze seemed to be covered in ice. It was bone-chilling. Tell me, why are you looking for me? Gregory asked. Gu Mengmeng was even more confused. Who was looking for you? That's not right. I was looking for him, but I couldn't find him. Isn't he the one who delivered himself to me? Gregory could tell that Gu Mengmeng was puzzled and became a little impatient. He took a deep breath, as if suppressing his desire to turn and leave. That mighty one sent a messenger to the Moda Mountains, so I came down the mountain to look for you. If you're not looking for me, then I'll take my leave. Wait. Gu Mengmeng probed, who is that great lord? It couldn't be Cole again, right? Gregory looked at Gu Mengmeng, squinting his eyes in a probing manner. Are you really the messenger of the beast deity? Worth the price. Gu Mengmeng was very confident about this. Chapter 1255. Wait a minute. Seeing Gregory turning to leave, Gu Mengmeng said, although I don't remember who that great lord you are talking about is, but I do have something to discuss with you. Since he helped me to pass the message, he should be in cahoots with me. Gregory turned back to look at Gu Mengmeng. What's the matter? I want the love of the sky. Gu Mengmeng straightforwardly stated her motive. Gregory looked at Gu Mengmeng for a long time. You can't go up to Moda Mountains. There was no hint of sarcasm or mockery. He was just stating the truth. So I need you to help me. Gu Mengmeng said. Gregory looked at Elvis and then at Leah. He shook his head. The peak of Moda Mountains is a sacred place for vultures. They can only bring their partners there to pray for blessings during mating. Other than that, no outsiders are allowed to enter. So, if you want to enter, you can only climb up yourself and defeat all the guards along the way. Gu Mengmeng was considering the feasibility of this plan when Gregory continued. But Moda Mountains are very steep. There are sharp rocks at the foot of the mountain. Based on your and your partner's abilities, you should be able to handle it. But starting from the middle of the mountain, it is a smooth cliff without any footholds. Unless you can stick to the mountain walls like a lizard, you will definitely not be able to continue climbing. Stick to the mountain walls like a lizard. Gu Mingming's brain was working furiously. She was trying to think of an alternative plan. But before she could come up with one, Gregory continued. Based on your wolf partner's abilities, he will need more than half a day to cross the middle of the mountain at his fastest speed. And if you want to climb up the mountain, a conservative estimate is that you will need to climb for 3 to 10 days. During this period, you will not have any food, water, or rest. You will also have to face the constant attacks from the birds guarding the mountain. If you slack off for even a moment and fall, the 10,000-blade stone knife at the foot of the mountain will kill you. 3 to 10 days without eating, drinking, sleeping, or resting. You will also have to face attacks and climb up the smooth cliff without any footholds. This was something that was simply impossible to achieve. Even if you manage to do it, the real test will only begin after you cross the middle of the mountain. Because the closer you get to the peak, the lower the temperature. The winter you usually spend on land is like a greenhouse compared to the climate on the mountain top. Accompanied by the low temperature and howling winds, the snow is like countless sharp claws cutting into your body. One of your partners has the advantage in terms of strength, while the other has the advantage in terms of race, so they can probably last for 2 days. Chapter 1256. I don't accept it either. Gu Meng Meng flared up. I just want you to bring me up the mountain. I am interested in the things on the mountain, but I have no interest in you. I said, the mountain peak is the holy land of vultures. We can only bring people other than our tribe members there to pray for blessings during mating. Since you and I have no intention of becoming partners, I naturally can't bring you up. Why are you so stubborn? Gu Meng Meng asked. Who bestowed that holy land? The previous messenger of the beast deity. Who bestowed it? This question stumped Gregory. Ever since he was born, he had been guarding the peak of the Moda Mountains, facing the harsh weather. The sacred land had always been a sacred land, but no one had ever told him why it was a sacred land, and when did it become a sacred land. But that was not important. It was an indisputable fact that the vulture tribe had been guarding that place for generations. Rules were rules and they had to be obeyed. As the leader of the vulture tribe, he could not simply break the rules. If it was a rule set by the previous messenger of the beast deity, then I should be able to abolish it, right? After all, we are of the same rank. She is a messenger and so am I. If my rank is not high enough, how about I ask the beast deity? After all, the vulture tribe is the most loyal protector of the beast deity. What if the beast deity gives the order? Can I abolish your stupid rules? Gu Meng Meng thought to herself, as a second-generation deity, when else would she be able to fool her father? Gregory was unmoved. He stood his ground and said, this is the rule of the vulture tribe. Even the messenger cannot force others against their will. If the beast deity insists on breaking our rules, then when loyalty cannot be served at the same time, we can only sacrifice our entire tribe to uphold our will. We will not defy our tribe rules or betray the beast deity. Gu Mingming's mind was only filled with the word inflexible. But Gregory's tone was not a threat, but a statement. This made Gu Meng Meng know clearly that if she were to use her father's name to pressure him, Gregory would really choose to die in glory than to live in dishonor. Damn it, if the vulture tribe died out because of this, she could forget about ever obtaining the love of the sky. Rolling her eyes, Gu Meng Meng asked again, why don't you get someone from the vulture tribe to talk to me? Only the clan leader of the vulture race can descend the mountain when he receives instructions from that lord. Gregory's gaze swept across Elvis's chest, then he said, now that the great lord is probably no longer around, so after I return this time, there shouldn't be any vultures coming down from the mountain anymore. Damn it, who was that lord? What if that lord asked you to bring me up? Are you willing? Gu Meng Meng tested. Chapter 1257. Gregory furrowed his brows, seemingly unwilling to do so. He didn't like fighting with land beasts. They were crude, barbaric and filthy. The smell on their bodies was unbearable. Although this messenger of the beast deity looked pretty nice, he didn't know why he didn't like her. He had a feeling of resistance towards her. But since that great lord had already given the order, he couldn't reject it. She then looked at the red spider lily on Elvis's chest. Since this is the final order from that great lord, I will definitely obey. I will give you a month's time. If you don't have a reason to convince me after a month, I will fly straight back to Moda Mountains. With that, Gregory turned and left the meeting room, flapping his wings and flying off. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed, speechless. After coming to the beast world, she had seen a lot of the world. She even felt that she could handle a pervert like Cole. But this Gregory was stubborn and unmoved by force or persuasion. Turning to look at Leah, Gu Mengmeng asked, "Leah, can't we not have the love of the sky?" "Of course we can." Leah chuckled and kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead. "I only need you. I don't need little foxes." Damn it. Did he mean that without the love of the sky to protect her from the pain of childbirth, he wouldn't let her get pregnant? Gu Mengmeng rubbed her chin and thought for a moment. Why not? Try the 7-word mantra. She wrinkled her nose and was about to cry when Leah wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her into his arms. "You know I can't do anything about your tears. So if you want to cry, I will definitely give in. Actually, it's nothing much. At most, I will be on tenterhooks when you're pregnant. When you're giving birth, I won't be able to bear the heartache and die." With that, Leah pressed his lips against Gu Mengmeng's and lingered for a long time by her lips, asking in a hoarse voice, "So, if you want to torture me with your tears because of that nest of little foxes, come on, the torture you give me, even if I'm crushed into pieces, even if I'm consigned to eternal damnation, I'm willing to endure it as sweet as syrup." Gu Mengmeng waved her hands in defeat. Who's going to cry? Humph. With that, Gu Mengmeng struggled out of Lee's arms and hung on to Elvis's chest. They left the meeting room and returned to the stone castle. Leah shook his head and said helplessly, "You're scolding me again. Last time, that humph lasted for several days." She didn't speak properly, nor did she eat well. All kinds of cold violence, forget it, it was better to torment him than to torment herself. As long as she was fine, he could endure any grievances. When Gu Mengmeng returned to the stone castle, Sandy, Hedda, and Jiaoyu were all there. "I saw that you didn't go to my place today, so I came to find you." Chapter 1258. Then why don't you let Ian bring you there? Sandy was puzzled. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes. Speechless and full of disdain, she said, "It's all because of that pervert Gregory." Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and said, "Initially, I wanted Ian to bring me there, but he told me that leaving the Moda Mountains was a betrayal. If I went any closer to the Moda Mountains, I would be attacked by the other birds guarding the mountains. They would not rest until they were dead. And the leader of the Moda Mountains is Gregory from the vulture tribe. Do you think there's something wrong with his brain? I already said that I can ask the beast deity to abolish that whatever tribe rule, so that they don't have to endure so much hardship guarding the mountains." Not only did he not appreciate my kindness, he even said that if the beast deity forcefully interfered, their entire tribe would be sacrificed to ensure both loyalty and justice. Sandy had always been on the same side as Gu Mengmeng and could not bear to see anyone making her angry. Looking at Gu Mengmeng's seething anger, Sandy also chimed in, "Isn't he just a third-level birdman? What's there to be so arrogant about? How about this, I'll ask Colin to bring Hodgson and Jerry to tie him up and beat him up until he's willing to bring you up obediently, all right?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "If force works, I'll beat him up myself. The point is that if I go up into the sky, I'll be handing my life over to him. If he wants to play any tricks, he just needs to let go in the sky and I'll be finished. So he must be the one who willingly brings me up." Sandy thought about it and agreed. Even if he was scared of being beaten up and agreed to bring Gu Mengmeng up, what if he took revenge in the sky? By then, no one would be able to protect Gu Mengmeng. It was too risky. This would not do. "Why not? You mate with him. There's nothing wrong with having one more partner. The moment she said that, the temperature in the room dropped by 8 degrees. Elvis's and Lee's faces turned darker than a millstone. What if Gu Meng Meng really took in that birdman just to give birth to a nest of little foxes? In front of Wings, Elvis and Leah had no advantage at all. Would they be able to compete for his favor in the future? That guy didn't look weak. After mating, he should be able to reach level 4 or even level 5 immediately. So when he found the spirit of the rocky cliffs in the future, should he activate the bloodline of the Beast King? Elvis and Lee's thoughts had already flown to the horizon, but Gu Meng Meng could not be bothered with them. She just pouted and shook her head, saying, "He doesn't like me, and I don't like him either. He dares to look down on you." Sandy immediately exploded upon hearing that. She dropped the table and stood up. "You are Gu Meng Meng." She was the best female in the entire beast world. He was just a birdman, why wouldn't he like her? Was he blind? No, this can't be tolerated, absolutely cannot be tolerated. Where was that birdman now? I want to reason with him. Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Sandy's waist and hung onto her like she had no bones. With a wronged look, she said, "I just know that only my baby Sandy knows how good I am." Yeah, you're enough. The others have no taste and don't know what's good for them, we won't argue with them. Chapter 1259. Jiaoyu sat beside Leah and poked him with his elbow. "Are you just going to watch my mother fret?" Leah sighed in exasperation. "That Gregory is too defensive. Moreover, it's our first encounter today. He's so secretive that I can't figure out his background. We were completely led by the nose in the first round." But Jiaoyu didn't believe him. He raised his brows. "Everyone has a weakness. No matter how strong he is, he can't be so secretive. Your mother has fought for a month's time. We have to properly meet this vulture tribe leader in this month." Leah patted Hede and Jiaoyu's shoulders. "You are guests from afar. You two must not forget Sauter's etiquette." "Understood." Hede chuckled. Jiaoyu teased Kiera. "Let me say this first. I'm just trying to find a way out for my younger brothers and sisters. I'm not doing this for you." Leah knocked on Jiaoyu's head and said, "You will beg me one day in the future." Definitely." Jiaoyu smiled. "But you can't reject me when I beg you." "Right. Daddy Leah." Jiaoyu smiled. Daddy Leah sounded sweet and gentle. He looked at Leah with eyes that were 90% similar to Gu Mingming's. Lee's heart tightened. He covered Jiaoyu's eyes and pushed him to the side. Clenching his teeth, he said, "Yes." Jiaoyu stood up and patted his butt. He reiterated, "Everything I'm doing is to find a way out for my younger brothers and sisters. It's not because of you." "Got it." Leah clenched his teeth. Jiaoyu's repeated emphasis was clearly telling him to remember this little demon's favor. Sigh, what else could he do but continue spoiling the little wolf pups he had taught? Who asked him to be so helpless against those eyes? Jiaoyu and Heda walked to the door and bade farewell to Gu Meng Meng and Sandy, who were sitting at the door and complaining crazily. Jiaoyu said that the family of a few female wolf beasts had come to the tribe, and they were different from normal male wolf beasts. The females had to be properly settled down, and in addition, the tribe had to stock up on food since the rainy season had started, so they were quite busy and could not chat with Gu Meng Meng. Gu Mingming's heart ached that her sons were too tired, so she asked them to go back to work first. When Leah was done with dinner, she would send it over to them. The two sons agreed sensibly and obediently. Jiaoyu couldn't help but say a few more teasing words to Gu Meng Meng before they left. On the other hand, Leah instructed Oriton to rush back to St. Nazaire and call Ian over. Oriton left in a hurry after reporting to Gu Meng Meng. There was no other reason other than Leah was in charge of cooking and Oriton definitely did not want to offend him. Meanwhile, Gu Meng Meng and Sandy were in a much better mood after complaining for a long time. The two females discussed many unreliable but extremely satisfying methods. Gu Meng Meng knew that these methods would not be put into practice, but just discussing them was enough to make her feel better. To be honest, other than Elvis, this Gregory was the most arrogant person Gu Meng Meng had ever met. She felt inexplicably displeased. She really wanted to shatter that expression of abstinence on his face and watch him kneel down and beg for mercy. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 1260. Li's words always made sense, so Gu Meng Meng gladly accepted Li's suggestion. So in the following 3 days, Gu Meng Meng had nothing to do. Instead, Leah and Jiaoyu were secretly whispering to each other. Morse code. On the 4th day, Leah returned to the stone castle with a smile on his face. The moment he entered, he opened his arms wide, waiting for Gu Meng Meng to throw herself into his arms. Gu Meng Meng didn't know what Leah was up to, but still threw herself into his arms, giving him a welcome home hug. Leah stroked Gu Meng Meng's little head. I have neglected you these 3 days, did you miss me? Gu Meng Meng chuckled. Although Leah was a little busy, he did not neglect her. No matter how busy he was, he would always come back to prepare 3 meals a day. If he could solve a problem outside the stone castle, he would never go outside. At most, he would go to the meeting room when he was plotting something with Jiaoyu. This so-called neglect probably meant that he did not stick to her 24/7. Heartless. Leah pinched Gu Meng Meng's little face and grumbled, I miss you to death every second we're apart, but you don't even care if I'm not by your side. Am I still your most beloved partner? Gu Meng Meng's smile widened. She felt extremely helpless. Li's tone was like a concubine who had been wronged. Gu Meng Meng felt that she should lift his chin and say something along the lines of, Come, I will love you dearly tonight. This Gregory has not even married into the family and I have already fallen out of favor. If you really accept him in the future, will there still be a place for me in this family? Gu Meng Meng's face froze. She looked at Leah. What has this got to do with Gregory? I don't like that old cadre at all. Gu Meng Meng knew that she did not have any masochistic tendencies. With Leah and Elvis, gentle and considerate partners who coaxed her in everything, why should she like that ice block who looked down on her? Moreover, she had said long ago that having 2 partners had already crossed her bottom line. She would never have a 3rd one. Seeing Gu Meng Meng's look of disdain, Li's mood became much better. He carried Gu Meng Meng up and walked to Elvis's side to place her back into his arms. He leaned on her knees and said, Jiaoyu, that fellow is very capable. He managed to get quite a lot of information from that bird man. Oh. Gu Meng Meng had always known that Jiaoyu was quick-witted, but she did not expect that even Leah would be led around by the nose by Jiaoyu. Her interest was instantly piqued. What did you get out of him? Tell me. Leah swayed his tail lazily and Gu Meng Meng instinctively reached out to scoop him up. She hugged his white and furry large tail in her arms and stroked it back and forth. Leah felt extremely comfortable from her touch. He squinted his eyes and said, The vulture tribe is the same as the snow fox tribe, they are the followers of the messenger of the beast deity. Chapter 1261. Leah continued, All birds are not allowed to leave the Moda Mountains. Did you think of anything? Think of what? Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah blankly and shook her head. Leah smiled and said, They say it is to protect the sacred object, but, don't you feel that it is more like a form of imprisonment? She thought about what Ian had said. The living conditions were terrible but they were not allowed to leave. Once they left, they would be considered a traitor and a disgrace. If they returned, they would be attacked and killed by all the birds. This was not only inhumane, it was also a life imprisonment. Moreover, it was a hereditary system and their descendants would be trapped in the Moda Mountains forever. If it was just to protect something, they could just bring it along and guard another mountain. Why did they have to guard the Moda Mountains with the terrible weather? In that case, besides the love of the sky, they are also guarding the Moda Mountains. Gu Mengmeng raised her suspicions. Leah nodded in agreement and said, "So, they do not allow any birds to move out because they are afraid that the news will be leaked out and people will guess." Even Ian kept his mouth shut about what happened in Moda Mountains after he migrated out. If not for the fact that I had coincidentally asked him about the love of the sky, he would definitely have brought this secret to his grave and never mentioned a word about it until his death. From this point of view, flying beasts were indeed more trustworthy than land beasts. After all, once land beasts mate, their partners are the most important and they can do anything for their partners. Look at me and Elvis, we are the best examples. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "Yes, yes, yes, you two are the best. I must have saved the Milky Way in my previous life to be able to meet you two in this life." With that, Gu Mengmeng kissed Leah and Elvis on their cheeks. It felt like she was comforting a child, but the two males enjoyed it very much. Leah swayed his tail and looked at Elvis. He said, "Mighty Wolf King, looks like we have to add another task to our journey." Elvis asked. Leah said, "In order to meet Gu Mengmeng again in our next life, let's go save the Milky Way this time. If he doesn't need to be saved, I will appear and cripple him, then you can come and chase me away. How about that?" "All right." Elvis's reply was simple and clean. Leah turned to look at Gu Mengmeng and asked, "So Gu Mengmeng, who is the Milky Way? Where is he?" "Pfft. Ha 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 ha. Are you two trying to laugh me to death and then inherit my inheritance?" Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng's smiling face, his eyes filled with gentleness. After laughing with Gu Mengmeng for a while, Leah continued. "But Mengmeng, do you know how the leader of the vulture tribe is chosen?" Gu Mengmeng replied without thinking, "Probably from fighting. Whoever is more powerful will be the clan leader." Chapter 1262. So I should still go see my father and ask him who that mighty person is. Gu Mengmeng came to this conclusion. But Leah shook his head and said, "The main point is not who that mighty person is, but the agreement between the vulture tribe and that mighty person." Gu Mengmeng had a hunch that this agreement had something to do with them obtaining the love of the sky, so she stared at Leah with sparkling eyes. But Leah suddenly changed the topic and said proudly, "But I am not in the mood to say it now." Don't say things halfway, you will make me anxious to death." Gu Mengmeng shook Leah's shoulders and grumbled shamelessly. Leah was dizzy from her shaking, but he pursed his lips and didn't say a single word. "Hubby," Gu Mengmeng's voice trilled 8 times at the end, making Leah's bones melt. He snickered and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head, saying as if he was at a loss of what to do with her, "Then let me ask you first, between the love of the sky and Elvis, who is more important?" Gu Mengmeng didn't even think before answering, "Elvis is more important." Leah nodded. Although he hid it well, a trace of disappointment still flashed across his eyes. The love of the sky represented their child. The little fox she yearned for so much was not worth mentioning in front of Elvis. She gave it up without a trace of hesitation. Leah looked up at Elvis, using his eyes to say, "Now, you still dare to say that I am the one she likes the most? It doesn't matter even if you die, can she still live on?" Elvis didn't answer and just stared at Gu Mengmeng with a loving gaze. His eyes were filled with the bliss of dying without regrets. Gu Mengmeng didn't know the contents of Elvis and Lee's conversation that night, and also didn't know what kind of feelings her answer had given to the two males. She just continued to ask, "Why? Is there any conflicting relationship between the love of the sky and the heart of the desert? If I obtain the love of the sky, will Elvis, who owns the heart of the desert, die?" That's not it. The speed at which Leah sorted out his emotions was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he was all smiles again. He looked at Elvis ambiguously and stretched out his slender fingers to draw circles on the red spider lily mark on Elvis's chest without saying a word. Elvis had goosebumps all over his body as he scolded coldly, "Scram." Leo lifted his head and gave a provocative smile. Not only did he not move his hand away, he even placed his entire palm on Elvis's chest without any scruples. He even squeezed it impudently and said, "No." A thick mark appeared on Elvis's forehead and he gritted his teeth. "Don't do anything that will make Xiao Meng's imagination run wild. She will have a nosebleed again later." Once she said that, Leah immediately retracted his hand as if he had been electrocuted. He then looked at Gu Mengmeng in fear and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw her calm expression. Ever since Elvis and Leah got drunk last winter, Gu Mengmeng had joked about their relationship until Elvis wanted to kill Leah and commit suicide to atone for his sins. Gu Mingming's Fujoshi heart was completely strangled in the cradle and she did not dare to fantasize about those scenes anymore. Seeing the tense atmosphere between Leah and Elvis, Gu Mengmeng pushed Lee's claws away from Elvis's chest and said, "Be serious." Chapter 1263. How should she put it? Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. Laughing dryly, she asked, What marriage?" Leah glanced at Elvis but smiled without saying a word. Elvis's tail bristled from Lee's laughter and he ground his teeth loudly. Leah said leisurely, "In the vulture tribe, only the tribe leader can mate with outsiders, so only the tribe leader can sense the signal sent by that great lord and descend the mountain, then, ta." Leah said slowly. "Don't laugh, I'm so scared." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her arms and stared at Leah with widened eyes. "Finish your sentence properly." Leah rubbed his own face and said, "Are you panicking? Don't you like to see me laugh the most?" Gu Mengmeng held Lee's shoulders with both hands. "Please, don't stop in the middle. Finish your sentence properly." Leah pointed at his face. "Give me the encouragement of love and I will continue." Gu Mengmeng pressed her lips against his without another word. But Leah turned his head in an instant and pressed his lips against hers accurately. A smile bloomed from the corners of his eyes. Lee's hand threaded through Gu Mingming's black hair and he gently rubbed her head. They were clearly an old married couple, but Gu Mingming's heart was still stirred by Lee's sudden touch. Blushing, she took a step back and fell into Elvis's arms. Leah then continued. "I heard that the betrothal partner is the one who inherited the heart of the desert. When that great lord's messenger reaches the Moda Mountains to inform the vulture tribe leader will fly down from the mountain peak to fulfill the betrothal." But Lee's gaze landed on Elvis's chest again. He couldn't help but laugh so hard that his shoulders shook. Gu Mingming's brain froze for a few seconds. She hugged Elvis with both hands like a child protecting her beloved toy. She shook her head furiously. No. I don't want the love of the sky anymore. If that bird dares to snatch my hubby away, I will stew him." Elvis was almost suffocated by Gu Mingming's strangulation, but he smiled blissfully like a foolish son of a landlord. He completely lost the imposing manner and prestige of a wolf king. Leo was originally trying to hold back his laughter, but after Gu Mingming's tantrum, he simply laughed out loud. The laughter from the stone castle reverberated in the sky above Sauter and the entire sky seemed to have become brighter. After calming down, Gu Mengmeng nestled in Elvis's arms with a worried face and said, "No wonder that fellow's eyes kept glancing at Elvis's chest. TSK, my hubby must have been molested by someone's eyes, right? I should have gouged out his eyes. Aw. I'm so jealous." Leo wagged his tail and said, "Hey, Xiao Mengmeng, if others look at me like this, will you dig your eyes out too?" "Dig?" Gu Mengmeng said firmly, "I will dig out the eyes of whoever dares to rape my man." Leah and Elvis could not help but chuckle. Xiaomeng's jealous look was really cute. Chapter 1264. Gu Mengmeng bit her fingers while shaking her feet. Her brain was in a frenzy. She had to get the love of the sky or Leah would not let her give birth to little foxes. She could not hand Elvis over. Damn it, she could not hand him over even if she died. She could not sell her husband no matter what. So she still had to start from Gregory. Weakness, what exactly was his weakness? Modern men were easy to guess. Wealth, power, and women. Any man could not escape from these three. To put it proudly, in the beast world, Gu Mengmeng herself was already the most powerful woman. But what did he say? He said he did not fancy her. Power. Moda Mountains was beyond the rules of the beast world and Gregory was the leader there. He probably had the highest power. Seeing how he despised land beasts and did not seem to want to be the leader here, even if Gu Mengmeng gave him the official title of the messenger of the beast deity, he would not even take a second look. Then, what about wealth? Gu Mengmeng scratched her head. He was just a damn bird, why would he need wealth? Heavens, could he give me Lei Zhenzi's thunder god hammer? Maybe even birdmen like that thing. Gu Mengmeng felt like she was going crazy. Raising her head, Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah with a pitiful gaze. I am indeed not suitable to think about people, what should I do? I want the love of the sky but I don't want to hand Elvis over. Leah, can you think of a way? Leah smiled in satisfaction but shook his head. He knelt down on one knee and hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin with his finger. No, my dear Gu Mengmeng. You should say, Leah, think of a way. Don't you know that? If it is your order, I will definitely execute it. Just like how he would rather be injured or even die than to level up at the third level. At the crucial moment of that battle, it was Gu Mengmeng who ordered him not to be injured. So he agreed with a smile and broke through to the third level. If it was her order, even if it did not match his own plans, he would still execute it. But ever since that time, Gu Mengmeng never spoke to him in a commanding tone. Actually, he was very disappointed. He had been waiting for her to trust him and rely on him. She would no longer think of solving problems by herself, but instead lay lazily in Elvis's arms, casually throwing troublesome matters to him and ordering him to solve them. Only then would he feel that he was needed, and only then would life have meaning. Facing Lee's urgent gaze, Gu Mengmeng said softly, Yeah, I want the love of the sky, but I don't want to give Elvis to him. Leah, go and think of a solution. Lee's smile was very blissful, even more dazzling than the warm sun in March. He held Gu Mengmeng's little hand and kissed the back of it. As you wish, my queen. That night, Ian and Oriton arrived at Sauter together. Chapter 1265. Leah said that all humans would have greed. And this greed would become a chain strangling his throat. The other end would be in the hands of an outsider, and he would naturally become a stray dog. He had schemed against the messenger of the beast deity in the past, but he did not know that the messenger of the beast deity was Gu Mengmeng. He had paid a heavy price for it, and after that, he no longer dared to look down on all living things from the perspective of God, to arrange other people's destinies, and to plot the path of others' lives. It was really a long time before he returned to his old profession. The next day, Gregory was invited to the stone castle. He was especially cautious the moment he entered, and was always on guard. But from start to end, Gu Mengmeng's family did not mention anything about the Moda Mountains. They only talked about the interesting things in their lives, some trivial and scattered, and completely in the style of daily life. There was not a single bit of probing or attacking content. During the meal, Leah greeted Gregory warmly, telling him that he must try his best dishes. Gregory was not used to such warmth, but could not reject it, so he could only accept. After living like this for more than 10 days, Gregory had gradually relaxed his vigilance. He had even developed the same habit as Audiobook. Every morning, he would fly out and bring back some bird eggs and flying beasts. Then, he would head straight to the stone castle to share a meal. Audiobook was especially friendly towards Gregory because it was actually very difficult for land orcs to hunt for birds. Even if they managed to catch them, they were either too young or too old. On the other hand, Gregory could always bring back plump and juicy birds that were in the prime of their lives. Ian had already arrived at Sauder for many days, but strangely, he did not show himself. Gu Mengmeng occasionally asked about Leah, but he always changed the topic. Gu Mengmeng then understood that Leah had his own plans, so she did not bring it up again. Half a month had passed, and Sauder welcomed another batch of uninvited guests. Elvis felt the restlessness of the wolf pack, and could not help but frown. "I will go out to take a look." Gu Mingming's expression was also unfriendly. She shook her head and said, "Let's go together." The originally lively scene instantly turned cold because of Elvis and Gu Mingming's expressions. Li's smile did not diminish, but there was a hint of malice in it. He followed behind Elvis, not saying a word. Audiobook had a poker face to begin with. His expression didn't change, but his body was emitting the aura of battle. Gregory subconsciously became vigilant, his muscles tensed up as he followed behind them. He didn't even think about what a battle between land beasts had to do with him. Why did he want to get involved? He just followed Gu Mengmeng and the rest out as if it was a matter of course. Chapter 1266. That orc shook his head. Originally, there were more than 20 stray beasts carrying the grapes over. But for some reason, they suddenly screamed and ran off. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and did not say a word. Thinking about how afraid Wabi was of her, it was not hard to guess why the stray beasts had fled. Gu Mengmeng scanned the surroundings coldly. Not a single stray beast's aura could be sensed. She then retracted her cold aura and said, "You guys follow me back to Sauder for a rest today. We'll set off for Zacharias tomorrow. Tell Qi not to let stray beasts deliver grapes in the future." "Yes, great messenger." The orc who had delivered the grapes nodded and went back to pick up the huge stone basins containing the grapes. Elvis signaled with his eyes, and the wild wolves all stepped forward to do the work of carrying the grapes. Carrying the basins of grapes on their backs, they followed Gu Mengmeng and the rest back. They had come in a threatening manner, but when they returned, it was more like a joyful and relaxed company outing. They did not head back to the tribe, but headed in another direction. There was a small stream there, where Elvis had previously brought Gu Mengmeng to wash her nose. They had almost settled down there. When they arrived at the stream, Elvis and Leah, who had seen Gu Mengmeng wash the grapes last year, personally went into the water. After all, Fei Rui was not around, so they could not use the three-wheeled washing machine to wash the grapes. They could only rely on their own hands to wash the grapes. Fortunately, there were enough people following them out, so it saved them a lot of time. Gu Mengmeng removed her beast skin boots and soaked her feet in the stream. She sat on a rock and kicked the water for fun. Gregory stood beside her, looking down at her from behind. How should he put it? Her coldly commanding the army in Elvis's arms was too eye-catching. Even if there was a stronger beast king standing beside her, her brilliance could not be overshadowed. She was clearly a petite and soft body, but it contained an energy that no one could ignore. It was as if she was the true owner of this world, looking down on all living things from a bird's-eye view. Gregory had a momentary illusion that Gu Mengmeng was a glowing person, dazzling but unable to shift his eyes away. At that moment, his brain could not make any sense of judgment. Apart from her face, he could not see anything else. After spending more than 10 days together, Gu Mengmeng had always been a warm and radiant image. Even though he knew that she had a huge amount of energy, he had never sensed a hint of danger from her. But just now, she just slightly furrowed her brows, and the murderous aura from her whole body shocked the entire 9 regions. It made people shudder with fear, but at the same time, it also made them inexplicably excited. But now, she was kicking the water with her bare feet, smiling like a child. "Grace, do you want some?" Gu Meng Meng turned around and plucked one grape from the bunch of grapes that Leah had washed for her. She extended her arm and passed it to Gregory, who was standing behind her. She turned around and realized that he was in a daze. She could not help but smile and say, "Hey, you came back to your senses." Gregory cleared his throat awkwardly and turned his face to the side, but he could not shift his gaze away from Gu Mingming's smiling face. He took the grapes from her hands and said with a hoarse voice, Thank you." "You're welcome." Gu Mengmeng did not say anything else. She turned around and continued eating her grapes, completely not bothered by Gregory's distracted state just now. Gregory placed the grape into his mouth and licked it lightly. The juice flowed everywhere, filling his mouth with a fragrant sweetness. Chapter 1267. After washing the grapes, Elvis asked someone to send the grapes back to the stone castle, while he handed Gu Mengmeng over to Leah. He went to the forest to find a tree suitable for making wooden barrels to store wine. Leah smiled the entire time, ignoring Gregory's gaze that was glued to Gu Mengmeng. He was not jealous at all, as if he did not care at all. The stone castle was the residence of the two beast kings and the ninth highness, so outsiders were not allowed to enter. So after washing the grapes, other than those who helped to carry the grapes, the rest of the tribesmen returned to their own homes. Only Gu Mengmeng, Leah, Gregory, Oritin and Sandy's family were left in the stone castle. Gu Mengmeng divided the grapes into two big basins, one for Sandy to bring back to eat, while asking Leah to keep the other for them to eat. Then, she placed the remaining grapes in the stone basin, and called the little snakes over to grind the fruits into mud like last year. Sandy was intrigued and chased after Gu Mengmeng with questions, while Gu Mengmeng answered all of them patiently. It was only when Elvis returned with his men carrying the newly made wooden pail and the temporarily sealed stone basin's lid that Sandy could finally relax. She tugged at Gu Mengmeng and said, "The way that fellow looked at you was not quite right." Gu Mengmeng looked over and Gregory immediately averted her gaze. He turned his head stiffly and looked a little suspicious, but Gu Mengmeng did not think too much about it. After all, he had made it clear from the start that he did not fancy her, so he would not slap her in the face like this, right? Sandy saw that Gu Mengmeng was not paying attention and tooted. She poked Leah again and said, "That bird man is powerful and has a unique look. He is on a different path from you and Elvis. If Gu Mengmeng accepts him, you might fall out of favor." Leah just smiled and said nonchalantly, "What else can I do? My Gu Mengmeng is so outstanding, everyone will definitely love her. If I guard against everyone, then I will be filled with love rivals." Sandy raised her eyebrows, thinking to herself, did Lee's brain get squeezed through a door? Why did he suddenly change his mind? Wasn't it time to use her as a love rival to scare her? What did he say the last time? He wanted her to thank him for not being a male, or else he would definitely kill her to prevent her from fighting with him for love. Why are you pretending to be generous now? Leah seemed to have seen through Sandy's thoughts and added, "Moreover, Gregory will only stay here for a month. After a month, he will return to the Moda Mountains. Even if he mates with Meng Meng now, they can only be lovers for about 10 days. As for me, as long as Meng Meng is happy, I can endure anything. So, if Meng Meng wants to accept him, I can endure it for about 10 days. Grace clenched his fists at Leah's words. His chest felt stifled and uncomfortable, but he couldn't tell the reason. He would leave in 10 days. This was something he had said himself. He was the leader of the vulture race. He had come down to fulfill the marriage agreement, but the heart of the desert was now in the hands of a male. This marriage agreement could not be fulfilled, so he had no reason to stay. He had to return to the Moda Mountains to continue protecting the vulture tribe's sacred grounds. He probably wouldn't come down from the mountain ever again. So, I won't be able to see her after 10 days. She was so bright and beautiful. She was so decisive. 10 days later, would they never see each other again? What was up with this uncomfortable feeling all over his body? Grace's brows were tightly knitted together. He couldn't explain the strange feeling in his body. Perhaps, he had left the mountain for too long and was not used to it. 10 days. He would return after 10 days. Chapter 1268. Gregory. Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, "Don't listen to Li's nonsense, they are just joking." Gu Mengmeng thought that Gregory's expression was not good because Leah had gone overboard with his joke. After all, to the males in the beast world, mating was a sacred thing and should not be used as a joke. Gregory's face was expressionless, but his eyes dimmed. He nodded and said, "I know." "Oh right, what is the bird you brought back previously?" "The one with beautiful feathers." Gu Mengmeng changed the topic to avoid awkwardness. Gregory thought for a while and said, "Melody." Gu Mengmeng nodded furiously and said, "Yes, yes, yes, that's it." "Is it hard to catch that bird?" Gregory shook his head and said, "Not hard. It was just that the habitat of that bird was rather far away and they happened to pass by this area when they were migrating previously, so Gregory caught two for Gu Mengmeng to try." "Then can you catch a few more?" "I like the feathers of that bird and want to make a fan with feathers. It would definitely look really good." Gu Mengmeng had been thinking about it for a few days. She had tidied up the feathers of the two Melody previously, but it was not enough to make a big fan with feathers. Gregory nodded and said, "All right." To catch a Melody, Gregory would need to fly at full speed for half a day without stopping. A round trip would take an entire day. If he could catch two at once, he would need to make a few rounds to catch enough for her to make a fan. That was good too, he would not have to keep looking at her when he helped her catch a Melody. Perhaps he would not feel so strange if he looked at her less. With that, Gregory spread his wings and flew away. Gu Mengmeng stood at the same spot and reached out her hand to air cawing. Her sentence, "Go after eating," turned into a mumble. She shook her head helplessly and said, "He's still an impatient person. Forget it, Gregory is so powerful, he won't let himself be hungry." Gu Mengmeng didn't think too much about it and just turned around to play with Sandy. She said that when the feather fans were ready, they would each have one so that they could use the fans to fan themselves during the hot rainy season and dry season. There was no need to use the elephant ear leaves anymore. Leo looked at Gregory, who had flown far away, with a faint smile on his lips. Meanwhile, Gregory, who was soaring in the sky, kept replaying Li's unintentional joke in his mind. Even if they mated now, they could only be a loving couple for 10 days. This sentence was like a spell, lingering in Grace's mind endlessly. Distraught, he rushed into the Melody's resting place and easily grabbed two Melody with his claws that were as sharp and hard as steel. After circling around, he flew back towards Sauter like an arrow released from a bow. When he came back, it was already noon the next day. Gu Mengmeng was taking an afternoon nap and Gregory had mixed feelings about not seeing her. He didn't know why he seemed to be afraid to see her. When he heard that she was taking a nap, he was relieved, but the sense of loss came one after another, overwhelming him. Chapter 1269. 9 days. Gregory's heart stopped for a moment, as if something sharp had pierced his heart. The pain made it hard for him to breathe and he frowned instinctively. Without saying a word, he spread his wings and flew towards the habitat of the Melody. During the flight, he was in a state of absent-mindedness, flying based on his instincts. His mind kept replaying the countdown that Leah had accidentally mentioned. 9 days, there were only 9 days left. Could that feather fan be completed? If only it could, she was so looking forward to it. What expression would she have when it was completed? Would that pair of clear eyes be sparkling? Would she smile like a child? If he was the one who caught all the melody for her, then her smile, would a part of it belong to him? With that thought in mind, Gregory returned to the stone castle of Sodor on the morning of the 8th day of the countdown. He ignored the fact that he had repeatedly broken his flight limit to fly back. He was afraid that he would find out that he wanted to see her earlier. He was afraid that she would be taking an afternoon nap when he came back. He was afraid that he wanted to see her. He wanted to see her like crazy. Gregory, you don't look too good. Gu Mengmeng looked at Gregory, who was carrying 2 melody in his hands, and was a little confused. I haven't seen you for 2 days, where did you go? Gu Mengmeng still did not know that the melody was very far away. Gregory would need to fly for a day and a night to catch these 2 birds. Nothing much. Gregory handed melody over to Leah and subconsciously walked to the water bucket to look at himself in the water. His complexion was really terrible. The vultures were not weak birds, it was normal for them to not sleep for a few days and nights. But he had only flown for 2 days and he was already so haggard. The problem was not the lack of rest or food. The anxiety and uneasiness in his heart was the real culprit. I'll leave first. No matter what, Gregory still did not want Gu Mengmeng to see him in such a pathetic state. Since you're already here, let's have a meal together. Gu Mengmeng called out to Gregory. Gregory pursed his lips. He felt as if he was fighting with himself. He longed to look at her one more time, but he was afraid that his current sorry state would ruin his image in her heart, so he hesitated and didn't move forward. Leah pushed Gregory lightly and said, Oriton always eats with us every time he brings back prey. If you don't eat, we won't dare to accept your melody in the future. It'll look like we're taking advantage of you. All right. Gregory lowered his head, a hint of loneliness flashed across his eyes. He was no different from Oriton. They were just people who shared a meal and provided prey. She only had her 2 partners in her eyes, so why would she care about his image? What was this sour and oppressive feeling? They had clearly said that they didn't like each other when they first met. She carried out her words, but what about him? When did it start to waver? At the dining table, Gu Mengmeng used her chopsticks to poke at the meat in her bowl, her face full of worry. Gregory wanted to ask her what was wrong, but he clenched his fists and could not open his mouth. He was in no position to ask about her thoughts, was he? But why did he care so much about it? Chapter 1270. This joking sentence made Gregory tense up and he lost control of his expression in an instant. He stared at Gu Mengmeng with widened eyes and his heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was going to jump out of his throat. The sound of his heartbeat was deafening. Gu Mengmeng had been poking the meat in her bowl with her head lowered all along. She did not even look up, so she did not know how exaggerated Gregory's expression was. She just shook her head lightly and said, the rainy season has been going on for almost a month. Usually at this time, little shit should have arrived long ago. In an instant, Gregory's state of mind had changed from the scorching heat of the Mecca desert to the bitter cold of the Moda Mountains. His eyelids were extremely heavy and he could not help but lower his head. His gaze finally locked onto the bowl in front of him. It was so empty that there was no color in it. She only shook her head lightly. Why did he feel as if the Moda Mountains were collapsing in front of him and the ground was shaking? She had already said that she did not like him. 8 days later, he would leave this place and return to the Moda Mountains, never to see her again. He knew everything but he could not control his anticipation, hoping that she would nod and say that she could not bear to part with him, that she hoped he would stay. But so what if she said that? He would not stay. The one who was engaged to the vulture tribe was the female who inherited the heart of the desert. But Gu Mengmeng clearly did not have the heart of the desert and the one with the heart of the desert was not a female. Wasn't he destined to be alone for the rest of his life? Since that was the case, it was a better outcome for her not to like him. His uncontrollable heart must have been because he had been down the mountain for too long. The climate here was different from the top of the mountain. It was all right. They would return to the Moda Mountains in 8 days. By then, without Gu Mengmeng, his life would return to its previous peacefulness. But, how did he survive on the Moda Mountains in the past? Why was it that he could not recall it more and more recently? Elvis and Leah took in all of Gregory's expressions and gave each other a faint smile of mutual understanding. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming's shoulders and said, "If you want to see him, I will send someone to the Snake King Valley to look for him." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "Little shit is not coming, it must be because he is afraid of me. I don't want to force him, seeing him trembling in fear in front of me makes me very sad." Gu Mengmeng looked up at Elvis and said, "But I miss him very much, I always feel that something is missing when little shit is not around. TSK, I haven't hit him for a long time, my hands are itching." Elvis pinched Gu Mingming's little face and said, "Hit me, I'm a beast king now, I'm more resistant than him." Gu Mengmeng pouted and shook her head, saying, "You didn't even retaliate." "I hit you, that's not called fighting, that's called one-sided abuse, it's domestic violence." "No." Elvis sighed and his gaze swept across everyone present, finally landing on Gregory. "Why don't you beat him up? Although it's only a third-level beast, it's from the Moda Mountains after all. It's much stronger than an ordinary third-level beast and looks like it can take a beating." Gu Mengmeng followed Elvis's gaze and landed on Gregory's face. Then, she shook her head and said, "I still want to beat little shit up." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and continued poking at the meat in her bowl, mumbling, "Little shit won't hide from me forever, right?" Chapter 1271. The meal ended abruptly because Gu Mengmeng had something on her mind. Leah took out Gu Mingming's half-completed feather fan and placed it on the table. "All right, give Wabi some time to get used to it. Maybe he'll come when you're done with the fan." "Really?" Gu Mengmeng looked up at Leah. Leah nodded. Really?" Leah added in his heart. "Since you want to see him, I will bring him to you even if I have to resort to trickery. Moreover, with Wabi's stupidity, it would be too easy to trick him." Gu Mingming's mood improved upon hearing Lee's words. She picked up the fan and continued sticking the feathers onto the bamboo fan frame. As she did so, she said, Gregory, I really have to thank you. If not for you, I would not have so many feathers to make a fan. I wanted to keep the first one for myself, but since you provided the feathers and you are returning to the Moda Mountains, I will give it to you after it is done. In the future, you can give it to a female you like and perhaps you can trick a wife into coming home. After all, the beast world was lacking in resources and the females here had never seen anything good. A little romance was enough to win a female over. For example, the last time in the bamboo forest, Gu Mengmeng had made a few cups out of a piece of bamboo and carved a name on each cup. Such a small object was extremely precious to Sandy. Mandy also placed it at home and used it to drink a cup of water every day, making it seem like some kind of sacred ritual. Before using it, she would have to wash herself before using it on the cup. It was really not impossible to trick a wife into coming home with such a fan. Gregory's gaze landed on the half-completed fan in Gu Mingming's hands. Trick a wife. If he gave it to her, would she want it? Okay. Gregory moved his lips and smiled bitterly. I'm done with my meal, so I'll be leaving. I will bring Melody to you tomorrow. Thank you. Gu Mengmeng looked up with a smile before continuing to stick on her fan. Gregory spread his wings and left, his gaze deep and profound. 8 days, he only had 8 days left. If she had finished making her fan in these 8 days, would something have changed between them? Gregory could not tell what he was looking forward to. All he knew was that he wanted to catch enough Melody for her as soon as possible so that she could make the fan. Counting down to the 7th day. Gregory came up with a strange idea. He used vines to tie the bound Melodi's feet together one by one. Then, he grabbed the vines and flew back. This time, he brought back a total of 26 Melodi. Enough for her to make a fan. Moreover, he did not need to fly anymore. There were only 7 days left. He wanted to stay by her side and watch her stick the feathers on the fan one by one. Even if she did not raise her head to look at him, as long as she could stay in his gaze, that was enough. Chapter 1272. Gu Mengmeng nodded and glanced at Gregory from the corner of her eyes. She smiled politely. You're back. You brought so many back this time. Are you leaving early? Gregory shook his head. It's just too troublesome to fly back and forth, so I brought more back in one go. Gu Mengmeng nodded and heaved a sigh of relief. I thought you were leaving early. It's so hard for me to have a friend whom I can get along well with. I can't bear to leave just like that. Gu Mingming's unintentional words made Gregory tremble. She said, can't bear to leave. Gregory felt as if a rainbow cake had fallen from the sky and smashed onto his head. He was completely dumbfounded. So the 3 words, can't bear to leave, were so mesmerizing. Yeah. Gregory didn't even know what he should say. He just stared at Gu Mengmeng without blinking. Leo waved his tail and chuckled. My Gu Mengmeng is always so sentimental. Even if you don't leave now, won't you still have to leave 7 days later? Gregory heard the sound of something cracking. He clenched his fists instinctively. His throat felt as if it was being strangled and he couldn't make a sound. Gu Mengmeng sighed involuntarily. She was filled with regret. She liked iPartment and My Own Swordsman, because these 2 dramas had a common characteristic. That was, lovers were by her side and friends were opposite. Every day was joyous and the people she liked would gather together. But her friends were scattered all over the beast world. Saint Nazir's Barit, Ian and the 16 valued females, Sauter's Hede, Jiaoyu and Sandy's family, Zacharias Chi Xian, Kanwu, Natalie and Peter's family, Snake King Valley's little shit, why couldn't they all gather together? Gu Mingming's disappointment contained too many emotions. But to Gregory, this sigh only represented her reluctance to leave him. These few days, he had been hoping for her reluctance to leave. Now that it had come, he was in even more pain. He knew that they had to separate, so why did he want more? The more he obtained, the more he couldn't let go. He was torturing himself. Leah smiled nonchalantly and carried Gu Mengmeng to Elvis. All right, don't think about it anymore. Go take a nap and leave this to me. Aren't we going to see Dodgy and Kiera at Sandy's place in the afternoon? Gu Mengmeng was also in a bad mood and did not have the mood to continue fiddling around. She just nestled in Elvis's arms and did not say a word, allowing Elvis to carry her back to the stone castle for an afternoon nap. After Gu Mengmeng entered, Leah acted as if he could not see Gregory's anxious gaze. He just looked at Oriton and said, Oriton, make a trip to the Snake King Valley and tell Wabi Gu Mengmeng is in trouble. And then? Oriton asked. Leah chuckled. There's no more after that. After saying these 4 words. I'm afraid you can't even catch up to Wabi's shadow. Oriton was expressionless. Chapter 1273. Gregory's heart skipped a beat. That's right, even though he knew she was powerful and had a Wolf King partner protecting her, and even saw her safe and sound with his own eyes, he still couldn't help but worry about her when he heard the words Mengmeng is in trouble. Was there something he hadn't realized? What kind of trouble had she gotten herself into? There was even a moment when Gregory suddenly rejoiced in his heart. If she was really in trouble, wouldn't he have a good excuse to postpone the 1-month appointment? He wanted to stay by her side, not just for 7 days. This thought made Gregory's heart flutter. The muddle-headed state he had been in for the past few days started to clear up. All the strangeness and discomfort he felt had the most logical explanation. What difference in air pressure, difference in environment. He clearly had fallen for that little female and didn't want to leave. The person he had wanted to get rid of as soon as he saw her as an eyesore had now become a precious treasure that he couldn't bear to let go of even for a second. After understanding his own thoughts, Gregory didn't feel the slightest bit relieved. The marriage agreement between the Vulture tribe and that great lord was a dead end. Now that there was no female to inherit the heart of the desert, the leader of the Vulture tribe was destined to be lonely for generations to come. He could never covet for love. The oath he made when he inherited the position of tribe leader had now become a curse. Lee's words had just touched on the point. Looking at Gregory's expression, he knew it was about time to reel in the net. It looked like it wasn't that his ability to scheme people had deteriorated, but that the person he had met was Gu Mengmeng, so he was destined to fail miserably. He said that Wabi and Gregory's concern leads to chaos. How could it not be applied to himself? He had always been led by the nose by Gu Mengmeng. Once she frowned, he couldn't do anything about it, but in this world, Gu Mengmeng was probably the only person he couldn't scheme against. Apart from her, he could place everyone else on the chessboard without a care, including himself. 6 days before Gregory had to leave. Morning. Gu Mengmeng had just finished her breakfast and was sitting outside the stone castle, basking in the sun. A chirp came from the sky and Gregory immediately went on high alert. He turned his head with a sharp gaze and went into a defensive state. There was no other reason other than that all the birds were on the Moda Mountains. Anyone who left was an enemy and it would be a life-and-death battle. A huge pair of wings circled in the sky and landed steadily beside Gu Mengmeng. It was none other than Ian. He waved at Gu Mengmeng indifferently as if he did not see Gregory. Just as he was about to walk towards Gu Mengmeng, Gregory launched a fierce attack at him without any explanation. Ian was also a third-level orc. Although he had mated with Mandy, he had not broken through to third level and still needed to accumulate some battle experience. On the other hand, Gregory was an orc who had been at the peak of third level for a long time. In addition, the vultures had always lived on the mountain top of the Moda Mountains with the harshest weather. They had been tempered by nature, so their abilities were much stronger than orcs of the same level. Even though Ian was prepared for this attack, he was only able to avoid being hit in his vitals. A bloody wound spread from his collarbone all the way to his shoulder. The wound was so deep that his bones could be seen. It was a terrifying sight. Chapter 1274. With one question, the distance between them was immediately revealed. Gu Mengmeng had the powers of a beast king. No matter how restricted her body was, it was not something a third-level orc could withstand. Because it was the truth, Gu Mengmeng was worried that Ian did not hold back and this push caused Gregory to be seriously injured. His throat was filled with blood but he gritted his teeth to prevent any blood from leaking out. He forcefully swallowed the mouthful of blood back down. Clean up the family. Gregory gritted his teeth. Gu Mengmeng was still on guard against Gregory. She glared at him and prepared to retaliate. She tilted her head slightly and said, "Leah, treat Ian's injuries." "Yeah." Leah pulled Ian over and pressed him onto the stone bench. He then retrieved a fishbone needle and a suture made from intestines from the stone castle and started stitching up Ian's wounds. Although Ian always looked sickly, he was still the former leader of the Eagle Owl tribe. He had his own pride. When Leah threaded the needle through his flesh, he was sweating from the pain but did not make a sound. He just clenched his fists tightly and said, "I was the one who gave the order to leave Moda Mountains. I was also the one who betrayed the oath. The Eagle Owl clansmen were merely obeying the orders of me, the clan leader. This time, I deserve it. If it's not enough, you can come at me. Come at me my ass." Gu Mengmeng did not even turn back. She kept her guard up against Gregory and said, "The Eagle Owl tribe has submitted to Saint Nazir. They are all my people now. If you want to touch them, you have to ask for my permission first." Gregory felt that the mouthful of blood he had just swallowed must have been boiling lava. Otherwise, why would he feel a burning pain from his throat to his chest, as if he had been drenched in boiling oil? By right, he should have replied to Gu Mengmeng arrogantly, "This is the family matters of the birds. You have no right to interfere." If Gu Mengmeng had insisted on stopping him, then he should have attacked Ian continuously before he breathed his last, until he died. But, the words that were stuck in his throat were, "He's your man, then what about me? What am I?" He could not bring himself to ask because he knew he was asking to be humiliated. But the left side of his chest felt as if his heart was being rubbed against a hot pan without oil. It hurt so much that he didn't know what to do. Gregory's eyes were instantly filled with blood, but he could not shift his gaze away from Gu Mengmeng's face. His throat was choked by the question he wanted to ask but could not ask. Even breathing was extremely strenuous for him. Leo was already very familiar with dealing with this level of external injuries and his techniques were extremely proficient. While Gregory and Gu Mengmeng were staring at each other, he had already stitched up Ian's wound. Chapter 1275. He wanted to say, "Don't worry about it," but the blood in his throat was still bubbling and he could not open his mouth. He did not know what he was holding on for, but he just did not want Gu Mengmeng to see him vomiting blood. Leah did not force him and just continued, "From what I know, the rule of Moda Mountains is that once a bird tribe leaves Moda Mountains, they are never allowed to return. Otherwise, all the birds on Moda Mountains will gang up and kill them. But Ian has not returned to Moda Mountains, so there is no reason for you to attack him here, right?" Gregory was very clear that if he insisted on attacking Ian now, it would mean that he had broken off all ties with Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng's attitude was very clear. She wanted to protect the Eagle Owl tribe and Ian. Just thinking about her guarded gaze just now, Gregory's heart was torn apart. For some strange reason, he nodded his head and admitted Lee's verbal game. This was his greed. He did not want to become Gu Mengmeng's enemy. At least in these last 6 days, he wanted to cherish every frown and smile of hers. Leah admired Gregory's adaptability and smiled. But the Eagle Owl tribe is indeed the traitor of Moda Mountains. It is not wrong for Ian to suffer this blow. Moreover, he is a male, fighting and killing is very normal, don't you think so? Leader Gregory. Gregory nodded his head with difficulty. His gaze landed on Gu Mengmeng's face. Seeing that her expression had cleared up, the tightness in his chest could finally be released. Leah patted Gregory's back nonchalantly, as if to comfort him. In the end, the mouthful of blood in Gregory's mouth was spat out by Leah just like that. "Aya, why did you vomit blood?" Leah exclaimed in surprise. He then hurriedly pulled Gregory to sit at the side of the stone table, diagonally opposite Gu Mengmeng. He took out a clean beast skin for Gregory to wipe the corners of his mouth and said in a seemingly reproachful but yet helpless and doting tone, "Gu Mengmeng, aren't you being too heavy-handed? It's just 2 males fighting. It's fine if you side with them, but you still want to kill them." Gu Mengmeng was a little dumbfounded when she saw Gregory vomiting blood. She was too anxious just now and did not hold back her strength. She seemed to have pushed him quite hard. Clearing her throat, Gu Mengmeng stood up and walked to Gregory's side. She took the beast skin from his hands and helped him wipe the corners of his mouth. She said awkwardly, "Sorry, I was too heavy-handed. I didn't mean to hurt you like this. You don't have to apologize. It's my fault." These words did not sound gentle at all, but this was the most tactful way Gregory could think of to say, "Don't blame yourself, I'm fine, don't worry." Gu Mengmeng knew that she was not a person with a low EQ, but Gregory's words were too tactful. No matter how she listened, it sounded like Gu Mengmeng was using her power to bully others. Yes, his skills were inferior. In the entire beast world, there was only one Elvis who was as skilled as Gu Mengmeng. Other than Elvis, everyone else was inferior in front of Gu Mengmeng. But Leo was right. Outsiders should not interfere in a battle between males. Moreover, Ian was indeed the traitor of the Moda Mountains. As the leader of the Moda Mountains, Gregory did have the right to get rid of him. She was too rash in this matter, but she could not stand by and watch Ian get killed just like that. Chapter 1276. All right. Gregory replied with a bitter smile. All he could think of was the phrase, a blessing in disguise. Gu Mengmeng added, but let me say this first. If Ian doesn't return to Moda Mountains, you cannot attack him anymore. If there's a next time, I will still beat you up. Gregory did not say anything, but Ian snorted coldly. I can settle my own matters myself. Do I need you to show off? You can't even beat him, why are you acting like you're 13 points? Gu Mengmeng turned around and scolded him without holding back. Ian originally had the look of a sickly crown prince. Now that he was injured, his face turned even paler and he looked like he was about to die. He clearly had handsome features, but he put on a look of disdain in front of Gu Mengmeng. He said, "It's better to be beaten to death than to let a female stand up for me. TSK, when will you get rid of your bad habit of being a busybody?" Gu Mengmeng stepped forward and poked Ian's wound with one finger, causing him to clench his teeth in pain. However, Gu Mengmeng raised her brows and said, "Stupid bird man who doesn't know what's good for him, I really don't know what Mandy sees in you." Tisk. Gu Mengmeng. If you have the guts, wait for me to recover. Ian ground his teeth and said sinisterly. Gu Mengmeng clapped her hands and said with a face full of disdain, "Do you still think I am the weak little female from 2 years ago? So what if you have recovered? You still can't beat me. Ha ha ha. You're really not cute." Ian snorted. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "The whole world thinks I'm cute. Only you think I'm not cute. That only proves that your eyesight is bad and you have a problem with your sense of beauty." The whole world. Where? Ian retorted indignantly. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis on her left and Leah on her right. She smiled brightly and said, "My hubby is my entire world. If they think I'm cute, then I'm cute." Elvis flexed his fingers and chuckled. "Yeah, I'll help you kill whoever says you're not cute. That way, only those who think you're cute will be left in this world. All right." Ian rolled his eyes and rejected the low-quality dog food that she was sending him. Gu Mengmeng won the first round. Gu Mengmeng proudly kissed Elvis and Lee's cheeks and took 2 fruits from the fruit platter. She bit one and threw the other to Ian. Ian had injured one shoulder and could only use his other hand to catch the fruit Gu Mengmeng threw at him. He did not stand on ceremony and directly took a bite. "Do you know about the stray beasts attacking Saint Nazir?" "Yes, I heard from the informant." "Are the losses serious?" Gu Mengmeng asked. Ian shook his head and his gaze swept past Leah. Without stopping, he said nonchalantly, "Only Maya was lost. The other females managed to escape because they went up the mountain to pray. The tribe lost some food and a few caves were messed up. These are all small matters. Barit and I can handle it." Chapter 1277. Gu Mengmeng was so engrossed in her conversation with Ian that she did not notice Gregory's envious gaze behind her. He was extremely displeased with Ian's tone towards Gu Mengmeng. This displeasure was even greater than the displeasure he felt towards Moda Mountains when he broke his oath. Wanting to kill him because of the oath was his duty, but wanting to kill him because of his attitude towards Gu Mengmeng was a roar in his heart. When he saw the present, his anger had already subsided, and all that was left was loneliness. Ian and Gu Meng Meng were obviously not partners. They both had their own partners and did not spend much time together. But from the moment they met, they were not at all distant. This was the first time Gregory saw Gu Meng Meng baring her fangs and brandishing her claws. In his impression, other than that time when she went out to pick grapes from the tribe, she was always warm to everyone else. However, Ian seemed to be very special. The way they interacted with each other was very different. Even though it was all sharp words, there was no anger. No matter how sharp their words were, when she had a delicious fruit, she would subconsciously throw one to Ian, and Ian would catch it without any hesitation and eat it. They could even switch from fighting to normal mode in an instant, and then from normal mode back to mutual attack mode. But even though Gu Meng Meng said that he was a bad friend who could not do anything but spoil things, the moment he was attacked, Gu Meng Meng still rushed out without thinking and stood in front of him. Ian must be special to Gu Meng Meng. But, why? They were clearly not partners, so why was he so special? Envy, jealousy, he wanted to go crazy. Especially when Gu Meng Meng stood against him without hesitation for Ian, Gregory's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. For the past 24 days, she smiled at him, treated him well, used Melodi's feathers to make a fan, and even said that she wanted to give him the first one. She even said that she could not bear to give it to him. Were all these just illusions? Was he not even worth a mention in her heart? But just now, she wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips so gently and apologized. No matter how he did not go down the mountain, Gregory also knew that in the beast world, it was normal for a female to want to cut open a male's chest to see what his heart looked like. She just gave him a push. Why did she need to apologize? Gregory's attention was all on Ian and Gu Meng Meng. He completely did not notice Li's helpless chuckle. Sometimes, strength and intelligence really couldn't be compared. It was just a clumsy method of giving a sweet date after a slap, but this Gregory was like a naive brat who didn't know the ways of the world. The first awakening of love was probably like this, right? Leah did not even need to think about it to easily guess what Gregory was thinking. If he had abandoned Moda Mountains like Ian, would Gu Meng Meng treat him the same way she treated Ian and give him a special treatment? Leah did not even need to think about it. When he was in danger, she stood by his side without hesitation. This was the reason why Ian had long arrived at Sauter, but Leah did not allow him to show himself. Just like what Gu Meng Meng had said, beggars would not envy Ma Yun for his wealth, but they would envy the beggar on the neighboring street for getting $2 more than him today. Gregory was the same. He would not envy how well Gu Meng Meng treated Elvis and Leah, because they were Gu Meng Meng's partners and he was not. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.